All right, so welcome to Cosmic BirthCode. I am the Young Conjurer,
I am Celestial Lachey.
and we're bringing to you the Cosmic BirthCode, a podcast breaking down astrological transits, news topics, political topics, sexual topics, anything relating to astrology. So I'm gonna let Celestial lead with introducing herself and the creation of Cosmic BirthCode.
Yes, I am Celestial Lachey. I am somewhat of a herbalist with things, and I truly enjoy studying astrology. What Cosmic Birth Code means to us, well, me specifically, is a podcast where we are able to talk about the astrological transits that we're all experiencing because we're all walking constellations. And so, what other help would it be to be able to talk about what's going on in our daily news, our pop, and some political transits that we see that's going on?
Yes, yes, yes. We had started talking about the works of this podcast like a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. So this has definitely been in the works. So to introduce myself, I am the Young Conjurer. I'm a person that loves astrology, loved it since shoot, middle school. I want to say middle school is about the earliest I started really learning and having a love for astrology. I'm definitely a person that loves tarot and herbalism, so I kind of combine a little bit of astrology with herbs and tarot within my practices and within my work. The reason why we kind of came up with Cosmic Birth Code, the name for our podcast, is simply because astrology is such a important piece in understanding who you are, understanding your environment, and understanding how you interact with day to day life and day to day people. A lot of times within pop astrology, people only cling to the sun side, like, oh, you're a sun in Pisces, you're a sun in Libra, you're a sun in Scorpio, but there's so much more that uncovers within your cosmic DNA, or that's why we call it the cosmic birth code, because your astrology chart, your birth chart, your natal chart will unlock so much information on how to navigate your life properly and to be able to achieve things in your life, whether it's career, whether it's family, whether it's inheritance, making your own money or getting money from other people, like your eighth house. So yeah, that's why we really kind of came up with this podcast, and to share that information and to make it much more accessible and understandable for your everyday person. So yeah.
Yes, I'm backing all that up. I completely agree.
Okay, so let's kind of get into these topics. So we wanted to kind of discuss the transits that are going on. One of the hot topics that we do have is the Mercury in retrograde. So today is
Yes.
October 27th, or 27th, October 22nd, 2025 at 2:35 p.m. I'm in Central Texas, and Celestial is you're in Memphis,
West Tennessee.
West Tennessee. So
Yes.
we're on the same time zone, and relatively the same astrological points. So with this Mercury retrograde, we are in the pre-shadow phase, which started yesterday,
Yeah.
and it will fully go retrograde on November 9th. Mercury will be in Sag in the sixth degree in the seventh house. And that just off the bat, because I love degree placements. I'm super into like getting into every little fine detail within what I'm looking at. And when I saw that sixth degree, because we have Mercury in Sagittarius and the sixth degree in the seventh house. The seventh house will be in Sagittarius at the sixth degree, and the ascendant for that day will be in Gemini at the sixth degree. That's like 666. Knock on
Yes.
wood. But sixth degree to me relates to the sixth house, to Virgo, and to Mercury. And with the sixth house, it deals with aspects of your diet, your uh, health, with your everyday work. activities or work habits, or habits in general, like things that you do routinely, back and forth, back and forth. Mercury retrograde, when it retrogrades, it's all about rethinking, revisiting, revising, revamping, redoing, reworking things that you have neglected or just haven't had time to. Because Mercury is slowing down. Mercury's like, hey, we are taking a time, a break. What do you need to work on? Uh,
Yes.
so yeah, what do you have to say about the Mercury retrograde that's coming up?
Well, Mercury retrograde pre-shadow has came in swinging. I noticed on the October 21st, a lot of Amazon's website and things and their services was down for quite some time, and some of the airlines was down. So that's a great example of the pre-shadow coming in full fledged. I also piggybacking off of the sixth degree and the sixth house and things of that nature. I do see how your daily routine may be affected by this a little bit, especially with it falling at the sixth degree and things. I will be a little bit more cautious about that as well. And with Mercury retrograde, it will be moving in the sign. It's retrograding in the sign of Sagittarius, and then it'll be moving into the sign of Scorpio later on throughout its retrograde period. So I would be very mindful of that as it's happening. We'll be paying attention to our reproductive health at that time, and our traveling a little bit more, especially if you plan on doing extended traveling and things of that nature.
Yes, yes. One of the transits that I really wanted to highlight was Mercury quintexing to the moon. A
Yes.
quintex is basically 5 signs away or 150 degrees. The moon on November 9th will be in Cancer at 16 degrees in the second house. The reason why that spoke to me, and this is because we're going through a very pivotal time within our economy with the cutoff of SNAP benefits. And people are going to be really stressed and really at their wits' end on how they're going to make ends meet, especially feeding their family and just providing for themselves. The moon deals with your emotions and a little bit of your habits. And with it quintexing to Mercury, it's going to bring in a lot of tension, a lot of irritation, a lot of frustration. And with your second house, with the moon being in the second house, that's your finances. So you don't want to make any rash decisions. You don't want to overspend. You really want to focus on your budgeting, how you're going to bring in more abundance for yourself in a very efficient way. So I kind of wanted to highlight that aspect. A few things, keywords that I want to talk about with Mercury. And this is from the book, coming from the book, the Rulership book by RX Fields. This is like a fantastic book that I always use when I'm really trying to understand the transits and the placements a little bit better. But with Mercury, we have aspects dealing with accounts, agencies, travels, agreements, business matters, copyright, civil engineers, communication, local or distant, gossip, jokes, army affairs, bureaucracies, conquest of enemies, secret enemies,
Like,
harvesting, uh, clairvoyance, farms, groceries, coupons, and inspection. So those are some of the keywords for Mercury to kind of look out for. Uh, we also, one thing I wanted to talk about with Mercury retrograde, it's like a 2 to 3 week or a 3 week period that Mercury is in retrograde. So the midpoint, it'll end on November 29th, but the midpoint from November 9th to November 29th is November 18th. At that time, the moon will be in Scorpio at 10 degrees in the fifth house. Mercury will be in Sag at the sixth house. And then it will have some aspects where it'll be opposite Uranus at 29 degrees, and Uranus will be in the 12th house, along with Mercury trining Jupiter at 5 degrees. Jupiter will be in Cancer at the second house. So a lot of this one aspect that I wanted to highlight was the Mercury trine Jupiter. Mercury trine Jupiter will bring about conversations dealing with policies, increase or decrease of income. And like I mentioned, with the whole Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP benefits, all of that being affected for everybody in the country, it's not only going to affect them, but every single body will feel that impact. There will be less people spending in the economy at the grocery stores, whether it's through, the courier deliveries like Uber Eats or actually going to the store. Like, this will serve a major impact. And these stores and these corporations and these businesses are in it to make money. So they're gonna make their dollar. They're gonna make their coin at the end of the day, whether we have to front the bill or not. So prices are gonna go up. It's already high as it is. So that's why I have mentioned that quintex to the moon. Like, we really have to be a little bit more uh, level-headed and emotion and have our emotions regulated properly to be able to weather the storm that we're coming with all of these changes.
Yes, we are. We do. Piggybacking off of what you're saying about Mercury in retrograde, I did notice that this week we did have a Mars conjunction with Mercury before it moves over into Sagittarius. And so I will be mindful of just driving and being mindful of like what I say to others and my thought process so it doesn't come off as too volatile or too aggressive. And I'll be watching the road more it with Mars conjunction Mercury because that Mars energy and Mercury controlling driving and things. It could be a little bit more road rage on the road this week as we're nearing up, gearing towards this the shadow. Well, while we're in the shadow period, rather, um, and with this Mercury uh opposing Uranus because Uranus is currently in Gemini as well. We're going to touch on that a little bit later. I'm just wondering how what other unexpected things are kind of like brewing up because with the shutdown and with the government assistance and things, and then we have a lot of states having their local elections and things going on this November. Mississippi is one of them. And so I'm wondering how is that going to affect the polls and things of that nature. So that's something that I'll be mindful of when I'm going out to vote if the systems may be down or having a little issue.
Definitely, definitely. I 100% agree with that because, there's a lot of speculation with a presidential election being rigged and voting to spread. If it's not being rigged, there's definitely voter suppression. And they have been trying to do that, especially I live in Texas, where they're wanting to they tried to redesign the maps to make it more Republican and make the representation for each person from the state less for everybody. So this is a time to really be a lot more proactive and a lot more vocal. Yes, Mercury and Mars. Mars to me is all about violence, power, and aggression. And Mercury is about communication, the mental space, and travel or distance. And I feel like we really, as a people, really need to set the tone for what we truly want as the American people. Like, we have people in our government that are not taking an interest of the public, of the community, and what our best interest is. Hence, the reason of the shutdown is because they want to increase insurance. It like increases to the point where it's like it's not beneficial for your everyday family, your everyday person. Uh, and it's very disheartening. So yeah, yeah. Um, excuse me for that. But yeah, so
Too.
let's talk a little bit about the Saturn return. So we are currently in not Saturn return, but Saturn retrograde. We are currently in its retrograde. It started on
Okay.
July 13th of 2025 and it will end on November 28th of
Mm.
2025. Saturn roughly retrogrades about 137 days or 4.5 months. At the start of Saturn retrograde, it was in Aries and it will end in Pisces. So I just picked a random date to kind of pull like future information from. So Saturn retrograde on November 9th, which is the same day as our Mercury retrograde. It will be in
Right.
Pisces at 25 degrees in the sixth house.
Hmm.
Um, a few things that Saturn kind of speaks to me is about unresolved issues, order, discipline, harvesting, responsibilities, reassessing your goals, civilization, productivity, cycles of time, social responsibility. Saturn, which I just learned, is exalted in Libra.
It
So
is.
what that speaks to me, Libra is about social justices, liberties, balance, fairness, uh, being for and of the people. Saturn, like just mentioned, responsibilities, order, discipline. So with it being exalted in Libra, Saturn is waking up that feeling of, I want to say revolution, of freedom,
It
of
is.
pushing the pen, pushing that energy of like, hey, this is not right. What can we do to fix this? Especially with everything that's going on in our political landscape. It's crazy. People are getting frustrated. They're over it. They want something that is not just me. Everybody has a social responsibility for each other, whether you want to agree with it or not. You know, there's a lot of conversations and a lot of debate about socialism and how it doesn't benefit the American people. But I tend to disagree. I feel like with healthcare, I wouldn't mind paying a little bit more to make sure that when I go to the hospital, I'm not breaking my arm and leg figuratively and literally. Like, you got to give your whole soul up just to get healed in America.
You do. You do. And the cost of living in America is really, we all know it's just really ridiculous, and we're only hoping that we elect officials in office that will make a difference for us. And with Saturn in Pisces, I'm seeing that the correlation that I am seeing is that we have to stop being delusional about what we feel like is going on and have to look at what really is going on. And with Saturn being I like to call Saturn the daddy planet because he's stern, is very big about discipline. But once you are disciplined and realizing what you need to do, you get rewarded in the long run. That is what I'm realizing. Maybe at the peak of my Saturn's return, I'm like, hey, I have to buckle down and get disciplined about this. Whatever the area it may, whatever house it may be falling in, per se for each person. But with Saturn and Pisces in particular for a generation, we're all having conversations about our religious standpoint, how we're feeling about the war on drugs and things of that nature, and how it's all correlating together as a generation that I'm seeing. A lot of people are taking the time to either quit doing certain drugs or now they're taking the time to take on their religious standpoint and pushing towards the goals that they want for themselves.
Yeah, I think for me, with my Saturn return, it'll be in Aries and the ninth house. So it's pushing me to really take my secular education seriously. I'm wanting to go back to school for nursing and to be a psych nurse in particular, and also furthering my education with astrology. So I'm feeling the pressure. I'm feeling the pressure to be like, hey, we need to get this done. What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to put yourself through in order to see your goal. A lot of times people take Saturn as the daddy figure, and we always see our father as somebody who's harsh, emotionless, and just very rigid and structured. But with all of those harsh and hard lessons, we get a very big reward. Um,
Yes.
a bigger than you can really imagine. I think one of the key phrases that I would think of with Saturn is preparation meets opportunities. So when you're prepared and when you're ready, you've done the work and you learned the lessons and taught and did all the things that you had to do within Saturn's energy. When it's time for the opportunity, which
Can
Saturn
we
will
pause?
allow, uh,
Are we able to pause this?
no.
Oh God. Okay.
I was like, wait. So yeah, with Saturn being just one of those planets that will give you the opportunity to go where you need to go and get what you need to get, you have to be prepared.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, and sometimes it can come with frustration. It can come with guilt, delays, and denial, and fears, and a sense of depression about your future. But you have to push through that. Saturn will force you to push through that. Another thing I wanted to kind of highlight, which I need a little bit more clarification on, was Saturn sextiling Uranus. And Uranus is all about sudden change, uh, a sense of forward thinking, a sense of community, a sense of really pushing the envelope of what you do know and what you don't know. So, like I said, July 13th was the start of Saturn's retrograde. Saturn was in the 10th house in Aries. Its impact basically at that time would have been for Aries, Pisces, Cancer, or Gemini. We had a full moon in Aquarius on that day. With the Saturn and Uranus sextile, it brings about energy of intelligence, intuition, creativity, being calm in the midst of chaos, solving problems that are intricate, technical, and scientific. It's the great teacher at difficult topics, constructive change, open minded, significant recognition and achievement.
Yeah.
Calculated risk equals success. Master of trade. So this is like a lot of times, like I said, people take Saturn and Uranus as the scary planets. Uranus, like the sudden change, things are going to flip upside down. But you have to look at it from the angle where Saturn is going to give you the discipline, Uranus is going to remove what's not working for you and replace it with something that is beneficial for you. So with that calculated risk will equal success, to me that's almost saying like if you're willing to step out on that ledge and step out on that faith, which is very Saturn in its signification, then you will have a sense of reward or success that you didn't expect. It's unexpected change, unexpected results. Also, I wanted to kind of highlight. I did a little bit of research into when the last time Saturn was sextile Uranus, and this is back on March 1997. This is this Canadian ice skater or figure skater, Elvis the Joko. He was able to do the first quadruple combo uh, jump in figure skating, and that has never been done before. So Saturn is all about, are you doing the practice, getting in and doing the hard work. Uranus is all about that unexpected change, that unexpected reward, that unexpected fit, action that will come from your discipline. You're actively putting in the work to make sure you see the reward. And I don't know if the dude realized he was gonna land the the routine, but I'm pretty sure he felt very satisfied with that.
Yes. One thing I am enjoying about Uranus and Saturn is that one thing I do see oftentimes we Uranus always seems like this unexpected work, but it's always been brewing in the background. It's like putting a pot of water on the lowest temperature and then watching it kind of like build up to a boil. And it may take some time, but it will come to a boil. And that's how I really perceive Uranus as a planet. So with that conjunction, well, what did you say the transit was with Saturn?
It was Saturn sextile to Uranus.
Yeah, so that man probably put a lot of hard work and effort into it and he just went for a big leap. Although it may seem like, oh wow, he just did that. No, that man probably been practicing and training for God knows how long. And that was a good day for him to attempt that that position that he did. That I don't know what it's called.
It was
Yes.
a it was some little jump it was some jump
Okay.
that had never been successfully done. So I'm just sure other people have tried it and failed, but he did it
Mm,
that day and it worked for him. Uh, let's kind of move on to. So we talked a little bit about the Saturn return, or not return, I can say Saturn retrograde. I kind of wanted to highlight in past tense October 13th, Saturn retrograde. Saturn is was in Pisces at 26 degrees in the seventh house, and we know the seventh house rules our relationships. So we're having a lot of bigger or more responsibilities within our relationships to our partners, relationships to our business contracts or business partners. So we're having to really truly take a step back and see if we're being consistent, if we're sustaining ambition, if we're planning and being self-disciplined in regards to what we truly want out of the relationship. The impact or who this will affect will be Pisces, Cancers, Aries, and Virgo. So, with the Saturn retrograde on October 13th, one of the transits, excuse me, one of the transits for October 13th will be Saturn trining Jupiter. And Jupiter, I think, is a really, really great planet for a sense of expansion, a sense of love, a sense of abundance. And sometimes if you have too much of that, it can be a little lopsided. But Saturn is all about restriction, the
yes.
limits, the
Yeah.
stops, the no's. So I feel like that's it's saying a beautiful relationship of like it's okay to grow, it's okay to expand, it's okay to go after these opportunities, but know your limits. Know what is for you and is not for you.
Yeah.
Uh, so are you being experimental and persistent? Are you putting in the hard work? Success doesn't always mean luck, but self discipline. Like you're not successful because you're lucky, is because you've been you've been super disciplined in your work ethic, in your demeanor, in your approach about life. I mean, you also been not only realistic but optimistic. You've been real about your goals, been very excited about them, enthusiastic about them, and making sure that you keep up that momentum. And you're remaining focused. Focused and consistent. Are you being consistent with what you want out of life? Are you going about it practically? Uh, are your ideals and your goals and your purpose clear? You know, you can have these dreams, visions, and goals, but if they're all over the place and they're chaotic, you're not going to really get very far. With this transit, you may have noticed increase of wealth, especially in relations to your real estate, or within relocating your home. So, yeah. So let's go ahead and we'll make sure we cover all our transit aspects. So did you want to kind of talk about the Pluto going direct or Pluto opposite Leo, or did you want to kind of save that for?
We can say that. I feel like we're at a good stopping point for the first episode. That way we can edit it up, get some clips, and go from there.
Uh, okay.